the more the walls close in on him, the more dangerous that he gets.
Right.
And they're closing in on him. I can't tell you how fast they're closing in on him. Dr. Jonathan Reiner, who arguably the best physician in the United States in our office, held us the fact that he kept Dick Cheney alive till he was 84 years old with 7 heart attacks. So
And a heart transplant.
And a transplant. Yeah. And he said this, he was completely perplexed why they would, order a MRI on someone that claims that they're perfectly healthy. He said, to back up, to buttress what you said, this guy said the same thing and said it pretty clearly and pretty loudly.
Yeah, and I think I may take Dr. Reiner over me, but I'm glad to be in.
Okay, but it's all right.
I'm glad to be in here.
The same conclusion. I mean, look, if 2 and 2 is 4, Einstein would come up with the same answer.
No, exactly. James, I'll tell you what, he is slipping. He is in terrible trouble. He tries to deny it, but he knows it. And I wrote a column this morning. That's when he's most dangerous. That's when he lashes out the most. That's when he gets the most desperate. That's when he'll try anything. And I think we're seeing it already. I think that's the only reason they're thinking about invading Venezuela. Doesn't have to do with curbing drugs, or he wouldn't have pardoned the worst drug trafficker of all times, maybe. And one thing I'm worried about, I'm not worried about the Democrats in the election. If the election is a reasonably fair election, the Democrats will win the House and maybe the Senate. But I think they're going to do everything they can to try to stop that from happening. Legal challenges, which right now they're ahead of the Democrats. They're going to try to send, what I call stormtroopers in to intimidate voters. And I just want the Democrats to be prepared for that.
Well, first of all, I read your column and I recommend it to everyone. Where can our listeners or viewers find your columns? On Substack?
On Substack, right.
Yeah, okay. I highly recommend it because I read it this morning. You're absolutely right. The more the walls close in on him, the more dangerous that he gets. Right. And they're closing in on him. I can't tell you how fast they're closing in on him. And he knows that. And, I don't want anybody to get sick, but I assume that he's aware of the fact that he probably has some pretty significant health issues. He's certainly aware of the fact that he has really, really significant downside political standing right now. He's got to realize at some point that he's appointed a pack of buffoons that can't do anything, but he's a big enough buffoon that he may not realize it. But I am just worried sick about the next 3 years. And I think your point, because he's not going to get better. You and I know this. Age is like an elevator that doesn't go down. The best you can hope for is you stay the same for a month or two.
I keep looking for it to go down a level or two, James.
It don't have a down button.
It doesn't. Right.
No, it doesn't have a down button. And we're older than him, and I would bet anything that we're probably in better health than he is, but you never know. It could drop dead the next minute. But there's so many things that are going wrong for him all at one time. And he's dealing with adversaries like Russia and China that possess something that he has none of, and that's patience. Yeah. And he is going to try some crazy stuff between now and just think of what's going to happen. He's going to have 2 years left. He's going to have a Democratic House. And I believe that the Democrats are now a favorite to win the Senate. I will put them a favorite. I can't imagine with the kind of differential we're seeing that we're not going to pick up Senate seats in Ohio, Iowa, Alaska, Maine, places like that. I think we're going to win. And
North Carolina's a given.
North Carolina's a given. Absolutely. Yeah. That's one pickup for sure. And I think we're really close in Mississippi already. And, and
don't forget Texas.
I'm not forgetting Texas or, Florida being somewhat of a belong. But when things start breaking your way, man, they start breaking your way.
They break, right.
You just want to be there and be available to reap the fruits of what's going to be a huge year in 2026. So, and he's going to feel it. And And by the way, these Republicans in Congress, they're starting to see that he's really doesn't give a shit about them. They're starting to see that Mike Johnson is a benign fool. And politicians have a way of trying to protect their own interests. And I think you're going to see more and more of that going forward this year or this coming next year.
Yeah, Elise Stefanik, maybe the most unprincipled House
Mhm.
Republican who's running for governor, attacked Johnson the other day because he won't bring up a bill that would basically make it harder to subpoena members of Congress without telling them ahead of time. My point is, why the hell should members of Congress get special treatment on that? I mean, if they want to make it across the board for people, fine. I haven't thought about that. But she's saying basically this all goes back to the lie about lawfare and everything in the Biden years. But they're the cracks are showing, James. The cracks are showing.
And one of the things, and you know this because you've been around Washington for a long time. When the cracks start showing, they're not linear. You don't have a 1 inch crack, and every week you get another quarter inch. You
Right.
get a 1 inch crack, and then in a
Right.
week you got a 5 inch crack. It doesn't. You understand that it's not just a progressive down thing, and they're going to see that, and they're seeing what's happening in recruiting. They're seeing what's happening in these specials. They're going back to their districts. None of them can have a town hall. All right, how
Right.
do they can't campaign? How do you how are you going to run for reelection and you can't go out in public? That
Ja-
poor person, Iowa won. I don't know what's going to happen. She won't get back.
right. When after President Kennedy was assassinated, Lyndon Johnson had this extraordinary run in '64 in the aftermath of the Kennedy and in '65 with that huge majorities, '66, and he was in danger of losing a bill sometime in '66. And an aide said, "Well, look, we won everything else," and he said, "Once they see blood in the water, it's different. They're going to come after you." And I think that's true now. They see a lot of blood in the water now.
Yeah, except one thing with Lyndon Johnson, he knew Washington, okay, and he knew what
Yeah.
blood in the water was, and I think it's very appropriate quote to remind people. But what I would say to people is, it's been an awful year. We've had an awful 13 months since the election, but the cavalry's coming. Can the cavalry get here before they burn the whole place down? I don't know.
Well,
I'm not sure.
I'm glad the cavalry is being led by people like Jason Crow. That's one thing that makes you
Absolutely.
feel awful good, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. And
Yeah.
there are other people like Jason. That 2018 class ought to build a monument to them on the mall or something. They're so
Right.
talented.
And there are, I don't know that the same caliber as Crow and Slotkin and Sherrill and the like. They may be, but they've got some great candidates running with those kind of credentials in Arizona and in New York and in other places. So we ought to have some of them on the show, as a matter of fact, James.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we got to get Ruben Diego back on the show because he's just the rising star, what a real rising star of the
Yeah,
party.
he sure is.
I mean, he and Slotkin were going to be on a national ticket. I mean, probably not 28, but
Maybe,
Is it's not impossible, but I mean, those are two people who really, really have a viable career in national politics. I mean, I would throw Jason in there easily, and
I would
there are
too.
other people too.
My
You
my guess, and this is based not on any knowledge at all, James. Although I know some people in Colorado, I think Michael Bennett's going to be elected governor, and then he gets to appoint the senator because he's got 2 more years. And Jason Crow, if he wants it, would be a leading candidate.
he would, and Joe Goose would be high too.
Right
I
there,
mean, I'm
too.
sure that.
That's a great choice. It's a hard choice.
Yeah, what you can't go wrong. And one thing we know that Michael Bennett will give it judicious and long and deliberate consideration.
Oh,
He's not.
you don't think
He's
it'll be
not.
flip? It's that St. Albans education.
Yeah.
No, he's a wonderful public servant. All right, we covered a lot today. We'll have a lot to cover next week.